Moving back to that wide receiver position, I want to talk about Chris Godwin because he just had a really good week. The Buccaneers put up 51 points against the New Orleans Saints. And at that wide receiver position for Tampa, Mike Evans, of course, gets a lot of the credit. Baker's going to throw Mike those 50-50 balls. He absolutely trusts Mike, and Mike is going to be able to get there with his insane height and his catch radius. It's hard to guard. But Chris Godwin is super reliable, a guy you can absolutely depend on. He has 511 receiving yards already. I believe he's third in the NFL right now. Chris Godwin is great in his own right, and so Tampa has an amazing wide receiver duo. But Mike Evans gets a lot of the flowers, and that's deservedly so. He is one of the most consistent NFL wide receivers we have ever seen. Without a doubt, a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and him and Baker have some great chemistry. But Baker Mayfield is a very good quarterback, and he's going to throw that to other guys too. And Chris Godwin is another example of that. He was really good when Brady was there as well. And, Godwin's always just been really solid. But especially this year with his 511 receiving yards already, that's really, really showing. I think more people are kind of noticing how good this guy is. He's one of the more underappreciated wide receivers in the past decade in terms of being really good, but not getting much attention, whether that's from the public or from the media. Super dependent, super reliable, maybe not as flashy as Mike Evans in terms of, the catch radius, whatever it might be. But Chris Godwin is the best number 2 wide receiver option in the league. And he could be a number 1 on a lot of teams. Mike Evans, you can make an argument for wide receiver 2s all the time that they're going to perform better just because the wide receiver 1 draws, defensive attention away from the 2. It was like with Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster back in Pittsburgh, and AB said that Juju, the reason he had such a great year in Pittsburgh that year was because of that, and then ultimately Juju's career kind of fell off after that. But for Godwin, my take on it in this situation is this. Yes, Mike Evans is going to draw a lot of that defensive coverage away from Chris Godwin. But at the end of the day, someone has to be able to take advantage of that. And that's what Chris Godwin has done. He takes advantage of the fact that the defense has to key on Mike Evans. And Chris Godwin gets himself open, and Baker delivers him that rock. So for Chris Godwin, Tampa's got 2 amazing wide receivers. They got one of the best, if not the best, core in the league, especially with Sterling Shepard at the 3. That's a really good receiving core, and they got perhaps the best duo in the entire NFL. And it's all thanks to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and they got the perfect QB to deliver them that ball to in Baker Mayfield.